All right, guys, the combine is officially over. We now have a lot of new information that we did not have before. So we get to now talk about what did we learn this weekend? What happened? Should we be moving players drastically up, drastically down, or should we be a little more level-headed about what happened this weekend? And obviously, this is new information for us, so we do want to make sure that we are reacting in some way, shape, or form, but we don't want to overreact. So let's make sure that we talk about all the great things that happened. And but before we do that, Pete's going to be hanging out with us tonight, talking all things combine. Pete, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing great. I did some plumbing today.
Plumbing, okay.
Yeah, so that was nothing bad happened yet.
PVC or like what were you using?
It was metal. It was working on the shower. Working on the shower.
Hey, there you go. New shower head? Or
no, it was leaky. Everything was leaky.
Happily,
I did not make more leaks. Made some sourdough bread, as I tend to do.
Living bread, yep.
And then played some Arc Raiders.
Nice,
so
nice. I've heard of that game. I've never played, but I have heard of it.
I think you would enjoy it.
You think so?
Definitely not a game to play. Start playing around draft season though. You don't got the time for that.
Yeah, I'm I'm a nerd, so I enjoy some of that kind of stuff. But there's only certain times a year that I have that extra free time, and this time of year is not one of those times.
Do you remember us playing Warzone together?
I do.
That was a long time ago, but that was
fun. That would have been back in like what, 01?
Yeah. 2001.
Yeah. Oh yeah, not 01. I do that all the time.
Back in the aught ones.
In the aughts.
Yeah.
We were back in almost the 20th century.
I was 6 or 7.
Right. There you go. All right, so let's talk about the combine here. Lots of really interesting things to talk about here. VJ Pep, what's up, man? How's it going? Mike Washington, I promise we will be talking Mike Washington. If you guys have consumed any content that was from me in the past 2 or 3 months, you know that I am a big Mike Washington fan. So we will definitely be talking about him. And we'll be talking about the tight end. We'll be talking about the wide receivers. I don't think there's much to talk about at the quarterback position. There's not a lot of really great updates there, but we'll touch on it here and there. But let's start off at the running back position. And, we got to talk about guys that we think really changed the narrative around them. And honestly, for the most part, most of the running backs did not change their narrative much. You had a guy towards the top like Jonah Coleman, didn't really do anything. So he didn't get a chance to really move much. We'll see what he does at his pro day. Jadarian Price did. Jadarian Price had an okay weekend, came in with a 4.49 40-yard dash, which is solid, which is very solid. I would have felt a lot better about that had he been in the in like the 210 to 215 range, but he weighed in at 203. That's a little bit concerning to me, especially when we saw a lot of these guys actually have very good times overall. For him to have that kind of time at that weight didn't really impress me. So overall, a little bit disappointed in Jadarian Price, if I'm being honest, at the combine. So he was a little bit of a letdown for me. We saw a guy that I actually like as a sleeper, Robert Henry. He was a little bit of a disappointment for me too. Not only did he not run a great 40 for being an undersized running back, but Pete switched to the 10-yard split. Look at who the two slowest guys were at the 10-yard split. Jadarian Price, Robert Henry Jr. Tells me that they're not getting off quick. Now, there's two ways to interpret this. Either A, they're just not track guys, and so that didn't work out great for them. The second possibility there is maybe they're not as accelerating as quickly as some other names here. So all in all, I don't think those two guys helped themselves very much. I also don't think Emmett Johnson helped himself very much. He's not the biggest running back in this draft, so I wanted to see some better numbers out of him. At only 5'10", 202, you want to see some better numbers. We did not get that, unfortunately, out of him. Let's see, what was his? I'm on the splits right now. He had a 1.59 split, which is just okay. What was his 40? Wasn't it like a 4.6 or something like that?
4.56.
4.56. So the slowest 40 time out of all the guys that ran. Now we know that there are some slower 40 times than that. But that being said, just because of Katron Allen didn't run and all that kind of stuff, we do have to take this into account. If you're going to be sub 210 and you can't break 4.5, I'm worried. I am worried. So overall, we'll get to the guy that obviously improved his stock in a second. But
Jeremiah Love
definitely improved his stock. He went from the number 8th overall pick to the number 7th overall pick in the NFL draft. But realistically, like, do you see any of these guys as like maybe not red flags, but at least a yellow flag?
Oh yeah, I mean the ones that you talked about is like, especially when you weigh less than expected, but run slower than expected. That's just not a good combination. Like I'm fine with running backs running slower, a little bit slower if they weigh more, obviously.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing really sticking out to me in this amazing generational running back class of 2026.
Yeah. Best class of all time.
Mm-hmm.
McCowan actually had a decent weekend for him. Ran a sub 4.5, which was good. 4.49. But what he really impressed with was the vertical and the broad jump. Had the best in both of those areas. So this shows that he is a pretty explosive athlete overall. So I would say a little bit of stock up for Seth McCowan. But the biggest one is the guy that we've been talking about pretty much ad nauseum, honestly. And that's Mike Washington. Mike Washington came in at 223 pounds. So it's not like he cut a ton of weight. He's still a, over 220 pound back at 6'1", but ran a 4.33. Now I've talked about his tape speed that I thought he was a legitimate, like he could run in the low 4.4s. I really thought he could. He even surprised me a little bit. I didn't necessarily think he was going to get in the like low 4.3s. So that even surprised me. Like if it had been in like a 4.38, 4.39, I'd have been like, okay, we're right there. We're right there. But with this guy running a 4.33, I mean, Mike Washington's got to at least solidify himself on people's boards. For me, he doesn't really move much because I was already really high on it. And I want to make sure that I am careful not to double count. And Pete, you and I were actually kind of talking about this earlier. If there are guys that we expect to come in with good height and weight, and they do come in with good height and weight, we're not like, oh, move them up a little bit. No, we already thought that they had that. We already thought they were fast. We already thought they were strong. We already thought they were whatever. So we can't double count that and give guys extra marks because of that.
Yeah. This is an interesting question. Washington or Trey Benson?
That's tricky. That's really tricky because right now you don't really know where Benson or where Washington's going to be. We don't know his draft capital. We don't know his path to relevancy. Trey Benson obviously has a fairly clear path as to what could happen, but it's a new staff, which could be a good thing for him, could be a bad thing for him.
Yeah.
So things are kind of up in the air. As crazy as it may seem, I think today solidified that I'm not crazy. Washington is a very explosive player, and especially at that size. And I already liked what I saw on tape. So for me, I think Washington locked in a day 2 draft selection with the combine. I think he's going in the second or third round. I think it's more likely the third round, but I think he's going in the second or third round now.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to take, Benson was already a third round guy that just hasn't given us anything. If I can re-roll, I'm probably going to re-roll at this point. So I think I'm going to go Washington here. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I liked Benson coming out of Florida State, but
I did too.
It was just, but the tape, I don't want to have recency bias, right? I really like Washington's tape. So I'm going Washington. It's re-roll type thing. I'm in the same boat. Is Benson going to have a higher nerd score? You think
Benson will probably still have the slightly higher nerd score? I was high on him in the class, and you know what? For as many running backs as we've done well with, so far that's looking like a swing and a miss. It looks like this isn't working out for Benson. There's still a chance, definitely still a chance, but I do think he'll have a higher. Right now, overall, I do not have any player at or above a 74 in this class, with the exception of Jeremiah Love. So everybody else everybody else kind of just shows that it's just not that good.
Yeah. Have you done your deep dives on Randall and McGowan yet?
So I've moved on from running back to wide receiver. There were 3 or 4 guys that I was like, I need to get to them at some point on a deep dive, but I really need to start getting to the wide receivers. McCowan is one guy that I did not get to. I have done my deep dive on Randall. I'm lukewarm on him. His nerd score is going to be more underwhelming than how I feel about him. The hard part is he looked like a guy that converted from wide receiver to running back. Like literally, I didn't know that at a time. And I watched within the first 3 snaps, I was like, this guy had to have been a wide receiver before this, because you could tell his tempo and gait were more like a wide receiver. He was tall, like really tall. Like I think maybe too tall, which sounds crazy, but at some point at running back, if you have too big of an area to hit, like that's not good. So I honestly think he's a little bit too big. And they were deploying him as a wide receiver, and he looked good doing that. So I think that's a thing for me where I'm like, I actually don't know if this could work. But anytime that you can't coach 6'3", 230 pounds, you just can't.
Yeah.
So if there was a way to make it work, it would be as that kind of H-back, running back, tight end kind of hybrid that does a lot in the receiving game. I think that's the way that he could be successful overall. But ran a solid 40 for a guy of his size. So he's got decent long speed. So I feel decent about him. But we'll have to see with McGowan. But yes, I did talk about him early. He's one of the few guys that I do think slight tick up for me overall from the combine. But remember, these are all just slight. Because realistically, and Caden mentioned this. You can highlight his comment, Pete. Overall, the 40-yard dash, the combine drills and measurables and all that kind of stuff are one of the smallest pieces of the pie for me. Like when I'm talking about how I'm evaluating all of it, when we look at like that total picture, combine and how they do in the combine is like 10% of it.
Would you say the weigh-ins are more important?
I would say they're just as important as the 40
just
times.
Just
as important as the drills. Like, I don't think the 40 time is the end all be all. And in fact, I think it is a little overrated, especially when we get to wide receivers. I feel a little bit better about it for running back, but even there, it's like only a few guys are ever running 40 yards. You have to break a big play to actually run 40 yards as a running back. So it doesn't happen all the time. I more care about those splits. And that's why those splits were concerning to me. Those 10-yard splits. That's concerning to me. If you're running below a 1.6, that is a little concerning for me. Could just be that they're just not track speed guys and they don't have good get off because of that. Maybe they have better acceleration in actual game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am. We'll see. All right. So before we go to the talking more about the receivers, talking about tight ends, and you guys can ask more questions about running backs. So we'll wrap up running backs here in a second. But this is your 5-minute warning. In 5 minutes, we are only going to be on Draft Nerds. So if you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on Twitch, you're watching even on the Dynasty Nerds YouTube, we are going to only be on the Draft Nerds YouTube here in the next 5 minutes. So if you're there, I'd recommend right now switching over to Draft Nerds so that way you can stay in with us. Pete put those links there in the chat so you guys can seamlessly move from one stream to the other because we will be exclusively on Draft Nerds here momentarily. All right. Any other questions about running backs that you guys want to know? Any of my evaluations, any of the combine stuff, any of that kind of stuff? Anybody, any questions on that?
Really fast, the 202 or Trey Benson. Where are you at with that?
So it's funny because we did just talk about, like, would you rather Mike Washington or Trey Benson? And I think I would slightly rather Mike Washington and just re-roll it. That being said, it's close, but I do think that's probably the range that you're getting Mike Washington. So
if he goes in the second, though, you'd have to think.
I mean, if he goes in the second, he's going in the first round of rookie drafts for sure. But even in the third round, like, it's hard to know if he'll still be there at this point.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see how it all plays out. But
yeah, landing spot, really. If he has a good landing spot, even in the third round.
All right. So, Pete, if you want, actually, we just earlier today launched a new page where we have all of the combine information ready for you at dynastynerds.com. So we have all of this data, and it's like a really convenient chart. So I wanted to make sure it was updated, and it looks like we're fully updated there. So if you're looking for all that draft information or all that combine information, all of the things that have been done so far for the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, all in a very nice, convenient sheet there for everybody. So
it was something we wanted to support a smaller site like NFL.com, and now
we're just trying to pump up their numbers.
Yeah, go subscribe to NFL.com's YouTube page.
Shout out.
I'm sure they're great. Okay, so here's our page. So are we hopping to wide receiver?
We did have one more running back question, so I'll answer that real quick. But let's go ahead and switch. We're gonna be now Draft Nerds only, so we're only on Draft Nerds now. So we'll be switching over to just that. But yeah,